If you have trouble holding your fabric tight in your embroidery hoop, then you need to try this. Welcome to Epida Studio. My name is Elizabeth and I help you make beautiful things with quilting, pajagi, and embroidery. So when you're doing hand embroidery and you have your fabric in the hoop, you want to keep that pretty tight. Now people have different opinions about how tight it should be, if it should be as tight as a drum or if it should have a little bit of give in it. But no matter what your preference is for hand stitching, you want to be able to maintain that tension. You don't want your fabric to be constantly becoming loose and sliding around. You want it to be pretty secure in the hoop. So if you're having trouble with that, then this is a way that you can adapt your hoop easily so to stop it from sliding around as you're stitching. Now if you're using a wooden embroidery hoop, you know that it has a wooden inside and a wooden outside. So the easy way to just give it a little bit more grip and a little bit more tightness is to do something that we call wrapping the hoop. So if you compare this hoop to this one, we can see that this one, the inner hoop, has some tape wrapped around it or some kind of fabric. It's not tape like masking tape, it's like twill tape. And so this will give it just a little bit more grip onto your fabric as you're holding it. And also it'll make it a little bit easier to tighten the hoop because the inner hoop is a little bit bigger. So that's what I'm going to show you how to do today. Now to do this, the first thing you're going to want to do is decide what you want to use to wrap the hoop. And there are a few different options for this. So you can try a few different things. So the one thing is like this thin twill tape. And so this, we can see the edges are finished, so it's not going to fray on those sides. And this is really strong and secure. And it doesn't stretch. So you want to take that into consideration that this isn't stretchy. So if you're doing a very small diameter hoop and you have a wide twill tape, it might be a little bit more difficult. And so this comes in different widths and different colors. I do recommend that you use a white or a natural color because if you use a color, there's a chance that it could rub off onto your embroidery fabric and you don't want to have that happen. Also, this one is about 1 inch wide. I wouldn't go wider than this. And if you go narrower, then that will be probably even easier to use. You can also use just strips of fabric, and I would recommend strips that are cut on the diagonal because those are a little bit more stretchy and a little bit easier to wrap. Now I have this hoop, and this hoop, it was my grandmother's and she wrapped it, so I wasn't there, and you can see it's a little bit kind of frayed, but it's quite likely that she wrapped this hoop 30 years ago or more. And some of it started to come off, and when I see what she used, this is like, this is kind of like bandage material, and so that's what she used. And we can see that it's lasted a long time and it still does the job. So that is another option. But for the sample today, I'm going to be using just pre-made bias tape. So this is the bias tape. It comes in little packages. It's wound up on a little cardboard bobbin like this. And this one was folded, but I did just press it so that it would be flat. So there are no folds in this. And so now I'm just going to take it and hold it on the end. So as I wrap it, the wraps are going to overlap with each other. And this fabric is cut on the bias, so it does have a bit of stretch. So I am kind of pulling it as I'm wrapping it. And this bias tape is pretty thin, so it's not really adding much thickness to the hoop, but it is going to give a little bit more grippiness to hold onto the fabric. So I'm just wrapping it as tight as I can and letting the fabric kind of fall naturally. As you're wrapping it, you'll see the way it's naturally going to go without folds or bumps, and I'm just doing it that way. Now when I get back to where I started, I'm going to overlap this a bit, so I'll keep wrapping right over top of where I started to make sure that my starting ends are all secure. And then once I've done that, because this is pretty thin, I could wrap all the way around and go twice just to give it a bit more thickness, but I'm not going to bother in this demonstration. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the end and then I will fold this in to kind of cover the raw edges. And then fold that down so you can see this is the end of the tape and the raw edge is folded to the inside. And now I'm just gonna put a little clip on there to hold it. And there are a couple of ways you can finish off the edge. Some people will just put glue to hold it in place. I would hesitate to use glue because I don't know how it's going to hold up over time, and I don't want to put anything that has the possibility of in the future discoloring or interfering with the fabric that I'm embroidering on. But if you want to try glue, some people do that with no problem. But what I do is I'll just get some white thread and I'm just going to stitch the edge of this right onto the fabric that's wrapped around. So there's the edge of my tape, and I'm just going to stitch this. And so I'm attaching it to the tape that's already been wrapped around and just taking some little tacking stitches there. There. So once those stitches are done, that's going to hold that really securely. So wrapping the inner hoop will really be able to help the fabric hold securely in the hoop. Some people even wrap the outer hoop. So if you're really having trouble, you can wrap both of the hoops and that'll give it even extra security. Just a couple of things. The fabric that you use to wrap your hoop, it's really helpful if that is 100% cotton. That'll give it a little bit more grip. Sometimes some of these trims that we find are polyester, and that might actually make it more slippery on your fabric. So look for 100% cotton. I've even heard of people that use flannel, and that gives it like extra grab onto it. And so flannel is a good option. So if you have something at home that you think might work, try that. And then if it doesn't work, then you can try something else. The last thing is you're gonna need a lot more than you think you're gonna need, like a lot longer of a strip. So this is a 4-inch hoop. Don't think, oh, 4 inches hoop, 12 inches is probably good enough. 12 inches probably isn't good enough. And I can't give you an exact formula because it depends how tight you wrap it, how much you overlap, but you're gonna need a lot more than you think. So just be prepared for that. So let me know, do you wrap your hoop? Do you find it makes a difference, or do you not bother? I'm curious to hear what other hand embroiderers do. And if you're looking for more hand embroidery tutorials and inspiration, you can find that at my website, epidastudio.com.